I put together a list of 10 winning sound design techniques that the biggest artists are using in 2023. These techniques are great for adding uniqueness and energy to any song, and I'm going to show you them in this video. The first trick is how to layer your snares to make them unique. Here's a snare sound that everybody has. Nothing unique about it, but you can make the snare your own by grabbing any miscellaneous sound. For example, I have this weird bamboo hit and also a shaker. And when you put them together with your snare, and you can go one step farther by putting another unique sound on every other snare. So now every other snare has its own unique sound. Next is how to turn your terrible singing into a unique and powerful lead. Step 1 is to add auto-tune, even though we clearly don't need it. And then just arrange some melody that sounds good. I'm going to take this vocal and duplicate it. Then I'm going to add a plugin like Manipulator to pitch it down an octave. I'm going to use Saturn 2 and add saturation to both layers. This is where the sound transforms. Finally, I'm going to add reverb, and this is where the sound comes to life. Next is a vocoder. You have to be able to use a vocoder. Here's a vocal from my universal vocal pack.
And I hope it's not too late in the evening.
You'll also need a set of chords. Next, I'm going to load up a vocoder. In this case, I'm going to use iZotope's vocal synth. And I'm going to tell this vocoder to trigger when the vocal happens. So now these chords will only play when the vocal happens.
And I hope it's not too late in the evening. Sorry if my heart kept you waiting.
When I'm using vocoders, I like to layer them with different vocoding presets. I'll pan each layer, so we get like a big wide sound.
And I hope it's not too late in the evening. Sorry if my heart kept you waiting.
Next is layering cross-decaying chords. That's a mouthful. Take a set of chords and a sound that decays. Bounce the sound onto a fresh layer. Chop each individual chord. And reverse each chord. Now that's pretty cool, but you can go down the sound design rabbit hole and make these reverse layers sound like whatever you want. I'm going to add an LFO to these layers and make them wobble. And then after some tweaking, I put these reverse layers up an octave and I got this really cool sound. This next one is vocal phrasing. Amateur producers don't have access to a lot of vocalists, so being able to take short vocal phrases out of royalty-free acapellas from the internet is a critical skill. Here's an acapella I found on the internet.
It's just what I noticed. Something could be out there.
I'm going to chop out a couple key words from this acapella and build an arrangement based on those words. So here's what I came up with. That little 4-bar vocal melody is great because I can make an entire song around that. I'm going to transpose these vocals to match the pitch of my song. I'm going to add some EQing, some echo, some more echo, and a bunch of reverb. So now these vocals stand out quite nice. Now these sound good, but we can add more energy to these by duplicating them and putting this next layer up an octave. And we can use that layer to make the arrangement better over time. This next one is echoing back layers. The way I like to use it is on a vocal transition. So I have a vocal, sounds like this.
But I'm gonna tell you tonight.
And what you do is you duplicate a small part of the vocal, add a lot of reverb to that vocal, like a little too much, and a lot of decay. And then you add an LFO plugin or a tremolo with a high rate of speed.
But I'm gonna tell you tonight.
layer it up with your original vocal.
I never told you I was too afraid then, but I'm gonna tell you tonight. And I hope it's not too late.
Cool part about that trick is you could do it on anything. Here's a lead synth without that effect. And here it is with that echoey layer. Try that on everything and you won't be upset. This next one is a reverse reverb effect. It's really good to use on leads and vocals. So here we have a lead. And the way I do reverse reverb is duplicate the track. And I'm just going to take the first note of the melody. Then I'm going to add a lot of reverb to that first note and a lot of decay. Then I'm going to bounce that to audio. And I'm going to reverse this audio. And if we play it back, you want to get this reverse reverb and just line it up with the start of your melody. And then I'm going to put another reverse on the second part of the melody. This next one is seriously underrated, and that's to use an LFO to add movement to literally anything. Here's a set of chords. Now if we add an LFO, I'm using Shaperbox, we can make a duck. That's pretty basic, but you could go really far into your LFO and completely redesign the sound. What I like to do is just find a weird little shape and put it at a high speed. Watch what happens when I use this crazy weird shape and put the length at 1/4 and layer it with this piano sound. How are you gonna tell me that's not the prettiest sound you've ever heard? Next is to create your own beautiful sounds with a granular synthesizer. The one that I'm gonna be using is Arturia Pigments. I believe you could try this one for free and just stick anything in there. I have this melody here. Great melody, but everybody has access to it. So I'm gonna make it my own by dropping it into this granular synthesizer. What I like to do is lay down one note and then use automation to find different start points. Is that the prettiest sound I've ever heard in my life? It's in the conversation. This last one is very simple, but nobody's talking about it enough. You can make any sound unique with just a little bit of distortion and reverb. So I have a melody here with a really basic sound. Nothing about that sounds unique. Everybody has that sound. But if I add a little bit of distortion with whatever plugin you want, every distortion sounds different. But don't stop there. Nobody said we can't add distortion to distortion. So I added a second distortion called thermal. I think you can trial this one for free. Here's the trick with the reverb. You can get a really splashy reverb sound if you use reverb with a really short decay, but a really high mix. And now I have a sound that no other producer has. So unfortunately, in this video, I was not able to cover the hundreds of really cool sound design tricks that would help you create your own unique sound. I saved that information for my production course students. Right now, I'm offering a free consultation to anyone who applies to my music production course. If this sounds like something of interest to you, go ahead and book a call and let's get started on your music production journey together. See you guys in the next video.